So let's talk about Trust Region Policy Optimization, or TRPO. If you're into reinforcement learning, you probably already know that training policies can be a mess. The big issue? Stability. You want your policy to improve over time, but traditional policy gradient methods don't always behave well. Sometimes they take too small of a step, making training painfully slow. Other times they take too large of a step, which can completely ruin the policy. It's like trying to teach a robot to walk, and instead of taking a controlled step forward, it suddenly flails and crashes to the ground. Not ideal. This is exactly where TRPO comes in. It's designed to make sure that every policy update is both meaningful and safe. The key idea is to constrain how much the policy is allowed to change in one update. That's where the trust region part comes from. It defines a safe zone within which the policy is allowed to update. The goal is simple: make sure that every update improves performance without destabilizing what's already working. Now, how does it do this? The main trick TRPO uses is something called the KL divergence constraint. KL divergence is just a way of measuring how different two probability distributions are. In this case, it measures how much the new policy differs from the old one. TRPO essentially says, okay, you can update the policy, but don't let it drift too far from where it was before. That way, each step is controlled and prevents the kind of drastic changes that could tank performance. To make this work, TRPO optimizes a special function called a surrogate objective. Instead of just maximizing rewards directly, it maximizes this proxy function that takes the KL constraint into account. It's like saying, yes, we want to improve the policy, but only within a safe range. Now, a big part of what makes TRPO practical is how it solves this optimization problem. Doing this directly would be computationally expensive. So instead, TRPO uses an efficient technique called the conjugate gradient algorithm. This is a fancy way of solving the problem without needing to compute large matrices explicitly, which saves a lot of computation. Okay, so what does TRPO actually solve? First, it prevents performance collapses. One of the biggest risks with regular policy gradient methods is that a single bad update can completely ruin the policy. TRPO ensures monotonic improvement, meaning each update either improves or at least doesn't degrade the policy. Second, it scales well. Unlike older methods that struggled with large neural network policies, TRPO works even when you have policies with thousands of parameters. Third, it's been shown to work across a variety of tasks. It's been successfully used to train policies for robotic locomotion, teaching robots to walk, hop, and swim, and even for playing Atari games directly from pixel inputs. But TRPO isn't perfect. One of the biggest downsides is that it's computationally expensive. Because it involves solving a constrained optimization problem at every update, it's significantly slower than simpler methods like vanilla policy gradient. Another issue is that it doesn't adapt step sizes dynamically. It relies on a manually chosen KL divergence threshold, which can be tricky to tune. If the threshold is too large, the policy can still become unstable. If it's too small, the updates become inefficiently slow. Finally, TRPO isn't the most sample-efficient algorithm. It still requires collecting a large number of samples before making an update, which is a problem in real-world applications like robotics, where sample collection is costly. Despite these limitations, TRPO was a major breakthrough. It set the foundation for later methods like proximal policy optimization, PPO, which builds on TRPO's ideas but simplifies the optimization process to make it more practical. PPO essentially takes TRPO's principles but replaces the hard KL constraint with a softer penalty, making updates easier and more adaptive. So if you think about TRPO in the big picture, it's all about stability. And it introduced the idea of trust regions into policy optimization, ensuring that updates were safe and monotonic. It paved the way for modern reinforcement learning methods that balance stability and efficiency. If you're working on reinforcement learning and need a method that prioritizes stability, TRPO is still one of the best choices. That's the essence of TRPO: why it was created, how it works, what it solves, and what its limitations are. If you want to dive deeper, it's worth looking at the original paper and checking out PPO to see how reinforcement learning algorithms have evolved from this.